Hello. Hello. Oops.
That worked last time. You turn it all off, back on.
There,
You made what,
wait, it's working now.
It's working, except for
What'd you do, Matt?
the video part.
literally turned it off and back on.
There we go.
Blew into the
No.
cartridge.
Hour on me.
Hey, I'll play with it, right? Long as we're smooth.
What's the microphone though? The microphone change, is that why it's working?
I was gonna say it's changed because it's picking up. Off the logic.
Can I do this so it bugs you?
Thank you. Appreciate that. Jason bothered me.
Is it back on Al now?
That light.
Things coming on.
Turn on.
There you go. Be patient. Woo-hoo.
That's working. It was on. It's on Al.
You're riding body. What do you want? Oh,
Al.
oh,
Al,
you're on body here.
yeah, make that be up.
Or
The microphone's the Al now, the green moving?
Yes.
yes, check.
Alright.
Chris, can you hear us now? You're muted. Bingo, bango.
Alright,
Still
we're
don't follow.
fairly confident, I'm more confident for it. I'm going, I'll go check on YouTube.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Alright.
Is this what it was doing before, where it just wouldn't even move anymore?
But it's picking out separate people. Alright, we're gonna wait for Quinn to get us live on YouTube.
Check, 1, 2, 3, 4. You should find me over here.
That's what it's on.
Yeah, this is like it's working, so.
Alright,
So that,
we're
I think that I.
Yes.
Perfect. Got Quinn, it's gonna lock in on Quinn for this whole
Live
meeting.
on YouTube this whole time, so.
Yeah.
Fun for everybody.
All right, good morning, everyone. It's 9:10 a.m. This is a regular meeting of the Grand County Budget Advisory Board. It's October 3rd of 2025. All those in attendance are board members Wingfield, Martinez, Throgmorton, myself, Wojtek. We have Lindsay and we have Hackwell. Kaufman is virtually, and the dean is absent today. She let me know she wouldn't be available out hunting. So we'll jump right into the agenda. First action item, the approval of minutes. I came in a little bit late, and if there was, I would entertain a motion, comments, suggestion, any such thing for the minutes for September 26, 2025.
I got a couple things.
Sure.
So first off, was the presentation that GCAT provided updated into the agenda packet?
No, the entirety of the tabs in that spreadsheet were not yet uploaded to the agenda packet.
Okay,
But we can note that for the record.
yeah, and then just for future, if we are gonna be using document that's not inside of the, I'd like to see if we're gonna be using something that's not, you know, the standard little form, it would be nice to have that loaded up into the agenda packet in the future.
Okay, yeah, and that's the case with our sort of our draft capital projects list right now. That's not currently in the packet, but I can do some follow-up. I'm gonna have more time after the meeting today than I did last Friday to do some of that cleanup.
Perfect. It was difficult to follow last time, trying to go from, you know, having looked at the, you know, this form right here. And then moving on and trying to follow something else on a digital screen that. And I think that's where some of the questions might have came from earlier.
Okay.
So, that, and then second off, there was a discussion, about optional tax, during the GCAT. I think that was right around like hour 1:58. I just would request that that discussion is reflected inside of the minutes.
Okay.
And then maybe just a suggestion that we just wait until that's put inside there, and then at the next meeting, we could go ahead and approve the minutes.
Agreed. Any objection or any other comments right now, or?
No, I was just gonna suggest then what, do we just want a motion to postpone?
Yeah, I would entertain a motion to postpone.
Sure, I'll make that.
Okay, motion by Whitfield to postpone approval of minutes. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Hackwell. All those in favor, raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously 6-0. So what's wrong? 7-0? Oh yeah, because we have 8 now. I'm not getting my numbers wrong.
Unanimous.
Unanimous, thank you. All right, we'll move right on to.
Is that what you want?
Yes. We'll move right on to presentations and discussions in our agenda, and I would invite here or welcome here Steve Gleason, the Director of the Canyonlands Regional Airport. We'll open up the draft budget worksheet for 2026. And yeah, Steve, will let you go ahead and go into whatever detail you think is important to talk about in regards to the 2026 budget. I know this is the first airport budget you're presenting in this fashion.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
I've done several budgets. This is the first time it's been in this kind of format with a group here to review it, so.
Mhm.
I wasn't sure, didn't have a lot of details as to what kind of presentation you wanted. But there were a couple of things I wanted to bring up. I'm showing increasing the salaries budget. Principally because we're required to hire, by the FAA, we're required to have someone serving as the operations coordinator. Which will require, even if we move someone that is currently at the airport into that position and just reclassify the position, there will be an increase in the salary there. I'm also requesting that Jessica Zufelt, our administrative assistant, be made full-time, as it's becoming a little harder for us to kind of track what's going on. And going through this budget process really brought that into sharp relief that we need someone there full-time. One of the things I also wanted to bring up has to do with our revenues on the budget side. There are some things that are a little disconcerting to me. I think it could just be that we've maybe mislabeled something, or something's incorrect. If you look at our airport leases, which should be the most stable of all of our airport revenues. Leases, unless you have a mass exodus from your airport, should never go down. They should only go up. And you can see that ours have gone down dramatically, almost by 2/3 over the last 2 to 3 years. So we're trying to find out why that is, which means we have to get some detail, Gabe, and we've sent those messages over, and I'm sure we'll get it. We got some detail, but it wasn't enough. We need to see some actual billing to find out if someone's not paying, or if that's being classified in another location. What worries me here is that you see it going down, but you don't see anything else going up, which tells me it's not being accounted for, or we've got some kind of an elastic revenue stream in our leases that is accounting for that. Could be rental cars, because that is an elastic one that would, in Plainman's affect our rental car revenue for sure. I don't know if it would make that big of an impact, but that's the detail we need to do. So as we started going through this, we started doing sort of a layman's forensic audit on airport revenues as well as airport expenditures, so that we can track better where our money is coming from and also where it's going. It just requires us to have a little more detail. And while we were doing that, it became obvious that with Jess only there part-time, it was hard for us to track that. So if we're going to do a better job at tracking, I think it's money well spent to have an administrative assistant there full-time.
A couple of follow-ups, in regards to the salary and benefits, I did pull those out of the proposed 2026 budget, not because I'm making any judgments,
Right.
on whether those inclusions or not, but we have a process, just so you're aware, where we'll see all, new positions or reclassifications looked at in an isolated fashion.
Which,
Um,
fine.
yeah.
And so pulling that out of there was, it was okay. I did notice that you'd done that and,
Yeah.
because I had the salaries going up, but nothing going up on benefits. I was like, wait, I'm sure I put an increase in benefits. So,
Yeah.
okay, no, that makes sense. But that's the main thing.
And
There are a couple of other things, in this budget, like overtime. We put in no overtime last year, and it's just not feasible that an airport with commercial service not accrue overtime. Planes get delayed. We have to provide ARF services. We have to provide terminal services. So there's just no way you can get around overtime unless you have an airline that never is late. And if we ever find that airline, that's one we all ought to fly and get servicing our airport. So that one was kind of a big ticket item that I think I was pretty conservative on what the overtime would be in just putting it 12,000.
Did you run an average?
Of how much overtime is in history? Yeah, we looked at what we've been doing this year versus what we should have been doing. A lot of times our guys would take time off to account for it. So we didn't use as much as we probably would have if we had done it just normally over the normal course of business. Then you can see there's 20,000 in travel. So that was a pretty significant increase. And I put that in there mainly because we're doing both ARF and airport operations with the same staff. They get their ARF training, and that's paid for every year. They have to go do a live burn. And the one they have to do next year has to be at a fixed airport location. So it can't be the mobile station that they've been training on. You're allowed to train on the mobile for 2 years. And then in the third year, you have to go to a fixed point. So that travel, number one, is going to be a little more expensive as we try and find the fixed point where we can go to. Number two, because they're both ARF and operations, a lot of them have not gone through the basic ASOS school, which is the airport operations management school. I'd like to see all of them do that. There are some online trainings that they can do. But it almost always, if we send them somewhere, it does two things. Number one, they focus more. It becomes a more important thing in their lives. If you send them, it shows that we are willing to invest in these employees, which helps them pay closer attention. Almost always when they come back from an online training versus come back from a live training, the difference is stark. So I put some additional revenue in there or money in there in the hope that we can start sending at least half of the staff every year to either the basic ASOS school or the advanced ASOS school. There's also a runway lighting training that I'd like to see somebody do. So there's just training that we have to do as part of our 139. And I'm not sure we've been doing it as well as we can.
Gabe, I have a question, if we can back up one or two lines to the benefits line.
Yeah.
260 and 23, 254, 25. I'm just wondering why we're at 165 there, if that had anything to do with pulling out the requests that he was making, or why that number seems like it would be somewhere consistent with the previous years.
it does look like it would require some follow-up,
And I don't know who provides that number, if it's you or HR or somebody, but it does look like it's off.
yeah, there's some simple math that I have to do with a spreadsheet provided by HR, and it's possible that there's this, I have to take the total full employee cost and subtract the salary to get the benefit line, and
Mhm.
it could have been a simple, error that and that number crunching, so,
Yeah, I would think that it's probably should be in somewhere in line with last year or which is this current year.
agreed, good catch, I didn't notice that.
If our standards or compliance have fallen with that part 139, are we at any risk? Like where are we
Well,
at right now?
they haven't, we just haven't done the training maybe in a way that is as beneficial to the employees. No, we're hitting everything. We're not gonna get in trouble.
Good.
The only way we could get in trouble right now with the 139 standards is if we fail to hire the operations manager, which we're required to do. We're safe. I just think that our employees could be better able to do their job
That sounds
if we
good.
did a little more outside training. The other thing I added in was weed control. That was zeroed out for some reason, but weed control is essential at an airport, so we've added that back in so that we can buy chemicals, which we've been doing anyway. We took it out of a different line item. But to put it back in there so that we know where we're getting our weed control money would be good.
I know the weeds piled up pretty heavily around the front of the terminal last year, and we had asked Mark, maybe that was early this year, to have the weed department get involved, maybe out there with some spraying or something. I don't know if there's some overlap or some help they could provide there, or if they already are.
I don't know, I haven't seen them out there, but this budget item would be all chemical. We would just be buying crowbar and granular and different things that we're allowed to use out on the airfield. And it's just expensive stuff, so we just would buy as much as we can and spray everything in the spring, and hopefully that would take care of the problem. Any questions? I don't know if I have anything else.
Yeah, I mean, it's mostly a chance for you to speak on items that might have changed,
Yeah, our static costs, I don't know if they're going to change or not. I don't know if our power bill is gonna be higher. I'm not sure about any of those, but the biggest one for me was not knowing where our revenue is coming from is. Makes me a little nervous. I noticed they budgeted 179, or they projected 179,000. In airport fees, when the year before they had gotten 27,000. That was. I don't know, how they came to that conclusion, but
Yeah, that does seem odd. I see that line you're looking at there.
I can only assume that there was an idea they were going to put, the previous director was going to start putting things into a different, I think we talked about that. She was maybe gonna put those into different categories, which I agree with, because your lease category, like I said, it should be static. It should do nothing but grow. So anything that's elastic, we need to code in a different way, so that we don't get this one. But nothing went up. So the budget was there, but then the amount didn't go up. So I don't know whether that just didn't go through.
Gabe, can I ask a question? I see on here the aviation fuel tax. Was that like 14,000, 10,000, 17,000, 18,000, 15,000, 15,000?
It's up and down.
That all seems pretty steady right there. And then we see 2025, we're at 7,000. And then projection for 2026, we're looking at 8,000.
Yeah, I didn't want to project it up. What that's gonna, what impacts that more than.
Is that Contour that we're looking at right there?
Yeah,
So Contour is not purchasing fuel from us,
they're tankering.
They're tankering it in, they're
taking it in.
fueling somewhere else.
Okay,
So that's the big drop off there. And I don't know that they're gonna start buying fuel from us as long as our fuel price is as high as it is. So
and how long is that contract?
it expires next year.
Which month, you know,
September of 26.
September of 26. Okay, thank you.
And then Gabe, I do have another question too. I know that we had multiple discussions around revenue that needed to go back to the airport. Is that shown somewhere in here? Because that number fluctuated. I think it changed a couple of times.
It isn't shown here. I'm glad you brought it up. But I can, you know, so I don't have exact figures to reference at the moment. But I will say, when we're talking about, so what Board Member Winfield is referring to is that there's an amount of funds held in the general fund reserve balance that apply, that are specific, are funds that were airport related revenues. So in these categories that are displayed here. And during the COVID era, there was lots of federal funding that came in to support the airport, and therefore those airport revenues were accumulated and not needed to support airport operations, and therefore they have to be due to FAA regulations based on airport revenues needing to be used for the airport. Those revenues have to be tagged as restricted. The amount, there was a number, a firm number that I felt, very confident in. I don't want to pull a number. I don't want to sort of estimate or guess without pulling up my spreadsheet on it. But one thing that I am confident in is that for this year, 2025, there's going to be X amount of revenues. Right now, it's sitting around 200,000. And airport actuals are currently sitting at 736,000. And so that difference between what we expect to bring in revenues and what we expect to pay for airport operations this year will exhaust the remaining restricted funds that are tagged for the airport to support airport operations during this calendar year. And so that essentially, that situation will kind of resolve itself by virtue of the general fund supporting the airport operations during this year.
So just to clarify real quick, the actual expenses this year are over the budgeted amount by as much or more than the payback? Is that what I'm understanding?
Well, not necessarily over the budgeted amount, but the amount of airport operations that has to be supported by the general fund this year exceed the amount that is restricted in that general fund balance. So by virtue of the convention that we use those restricted dollars first, that will kind of resolve that situation at the end of this year.
Okay, understand.
Makes sense.
And so can we update this form then at some point with what that actual number will be?
Yeah, we'll make sure to include that in the record so I can refer back to it.
I imagine it would be down in maybe that revenue line, or where would you?
Yeah, I could add it I could add a summary, just a short narrative and a summary of that, or I could even copy and paste that whole chart that I have that breaks it all down, because this is a spreadsheet, could probably fit it all in. But yeah, letting this be a comprehensive document. And then Steve, is in regards to the revenues, I agree, it's something that we certainly need to get to the bottom of. One thing I'm seeing, as far as what's going on this year, that seems odd to me. I'm not really sure. But as far as the budget goes, and from what I remember, when we look at the interplay between airport fees and airport leases, it is hovering around 300 to 350. This year was closer to 400. And so I do remember that the former airport director was seeking to pull out expenses that had been coded to, and what it looks like is that leases, it was always carrying a number of expenses that didn't apply actually to leases, but were being coded there, and they sought to budget in fees the items that were being coded to leases that weren't leases.
Which I totally agree with. I think that is the right way to do it, so that you keep elastic things with elastic things.
Yeah.
But what worried me is we didn't see any increase in the fees either.
Right,
So
that seems
we're
odd.
dropping off, and then there's nothing going up in a corresponding way.
Yeah.
Which is why we just wanted a little more detail, and we've asked for it, and I don't think it's anything you guys are doing. I just think it's, when we get our detail about billing, it'll just say like 25 billings.
Mhm.
And what we want to see is what were those 25 billings? So that we can go back and track and make sure that we're collecting the right amount of revenue from each hangar owner, for example, make sure that people are paying us, make sure we're getting what we're supposed to get out of the car rentals. So we just need to see a little more detail.
And we can, We do this for a couple of county departments, is that you can always request from my office, say at the end of the month. Some detailed ledgers, and then you can do some of your own internal reconciliation with the bills you know you paid, and just kind of cross-checking things and making sure that my office didn't miscode anything, and
Sure.
so
I definitely
we're happy,
think at
we're
least,
happy to do that.
at least temporarily, we need to work closely with you till we figure out exactly how it's all,
Mhm.
how it's all being done.
Sounds good. Yep.
I mean, just in my mind, I would think that you would wanna keep tabs on hangar A versus hangar B or C or whatever. To know if somebody's missing their payments, or does that take place with you guys? I mean, how do you know if somebody's a month behind?
Right now,
or
we don't.
6 months, that's what comes to my
We
mind. when you
don't, so
look
if
at this.
I see the detail and it says 25 billings, and I don't know. who
No,
those
I
25 is,
understand that, so.
Which is why we kind of need that detail, and if we saw that every month, we could track it better and make sure
Yeah.
that everybody is paying.
Yeah, somebody.
I know at Provo, we found
Be
a
a
hangar
year
that they
behind.
hadn't paid for 10 years. 10 years they hadn't paid,
Hmm.
when we did a hangar audit. Yeah.
You have a question, Brian?
Yeah, I did. So, and part of this is just from my understanding right here. So the revenues that are collected stay with the airport.
Yeah, they have to be used on capital or operations.
Got it. And so then my next question is, so the 2026 budget is 974,000. And then,
Proposed, yep.
yep, it's proposed. And then the projected revenues is 483,000.
Mhm.
So then would it be that the county then would be funding 491,000? Is that correct? Or are there other grants involved there? Because it does say that there's the FEMA grant of 224. Is that going towards capital? Or does that go into the budget right there? Off on that left, just right below your percentages,
Right where the arrow is there.
right there. So does that 224 go to offset that 491, or is that the 491 is what the county would be looking to fund?
I'll have to look into that closer. I don't want to say something that I'm not sure about.
But just
I'm
generally.
not aware of the fee. And I'm not sure which AIP project that reimbursement is from.
Okay.
So I'll have to get some detail on that for you.
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you. And then for 2026, are we projecting steady employments, an increase in employments, a decrease in employments?
I'm not gonna project that we're gonna increase. I wanna keep us as realistic as we can. I hope that we increase, but looking at the trend right now, it's been decreasing.
Okay.
How we can turn that around, we've been looking at different ways to try and increase those employments. It was Contour that called me just a minute ago, wants to talk about winter operations, for example. So there are some things we might be able to do. And then when we come up for rebid of our carrier, there are certain things we're gonna wanna make sure our carrier has. As far as their code share with different airlines and destinations that we think will increase employment. So as soon as that comes up, I think we'll be in a better place to say, we're going to increase employments. This year, maybe not, because we're kind of status quo. We're on the same contract with the same carrier, with the same rules applying. Next year, as we renegotiate that, we might be able to make some changes.
I think there were some discussions with Mark and maybe Quinn was there, as well as Andrea. And Contour Air, and they kind of got maybe shelved when Steve came on board. I wonder if there would be value in putting together another meeting with Contour now that we've got, I know that they're in contact with you, but so that they understand. I mean, the fuel line is extremely worrisome, I guess, is the word I would use, regarding, what we're doing with our FBO. And I seem to remember those numbers were somewhere in the 238,000 gallons a year under SkyWest. And then it dropped off to about 40,000 gallons a year under Contour. And I know that SkyWest worked a fuel price negotiation with the FBO, as you would think Contour would as well, rather than, I know that it's posted and it's very high on the
Well,
rate out there if Bill Winfield pulls up and fuels his airplane, but when you're buying 200 and some thousand gallons a year, why you can negotiate that price down.
right,
So I don't know, I just would like to energize that conversation with, Mr., his name was Ben, I don't remember his last name,
yeah.
from Contour.
I'm meeting with him today at 3.
Oh, okay, cool.
I'll be on the phone with him and we can go over some of those things at that point.
But we had discussed what, trying to resolve some of those issues, so I think bringing them back up and letting him know the county is extremely concerned about some of them.
Steve, one other thing, and then I'm not picking on you, I know you're new, but I just want to make sure that we're being consistent across, what we demand of all departments in presenting a budget is, we want to be a little bit, we want to be exact, and itemize our projected expenses as much as we possibly can.
Gotcha.
And so kind of what that means is, say for a travel line, basically we want to go through the exercise of identifying the amount of training, the amount of employees that will go on those trainings, the estimated cost, and the travel line, it would be hotel and transportation. And just create an estimate and itemize it and then create a grand total that is based off of like that actual expected cost.
Okay.
And it's just something that we ask everyone to do. I think it's fair to the taxpayers to know exactly what's in a given budget line. And I want to be able to explain it myself if I need to. And so I think I would ask that, when we have to get a new budget prepared by the end of this month. And so I would ask that you try to, maybe using the ledgers that I provided you, maybe try to build out something more detailed. And if you need more follow-up about those actual, some of these actual costs, say like trash pickup. You're having a hard time seeing what the monthly billing is in there, but we basically want to just see what the monthly billing is for trash pickup times 12, for example, or
Yeah.
however that cycle is. But yeah, thank you.
Yeah, we can do that.
And I think I'd add on to that too. I think the closer you are to exact, and even if you end up going over it, then it allows us to, in the middle of the year, to amend the budget. I mean, if you miss it, it's better to miss it by a little bit because you underestimated than to just pad all of the numbers and we're not really sure, what's going on in there, so.
Well, it's easily done if we have all that detail.
Yeah, great. And it'll help you moving forward, and like it'll be a little more work this time, and then next year budget, it'll help you kind of fill that out with greater accuracy.
Yep.
All right, well, any other questions regarding the airport budget? Seeing none, thank you, Steve.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Go on to the next presentation in the budget, which is information technology, and we have IT Director Matt Seniceros present with us here today. We met yesterday, went over this, and yeah, Matt, if you want to just touch on any highlights and field any questions, the floor is yours.
I would actually just really. Budget's pretty straightforward, figures want to take forever. I don't have a lot of commentary, it hasn't changed a whole lot from last year to this. Try to increase the travel line a little bit. I'm getting James out to a couple of different conferences and I'm finding myself back and forth with pieces with the Cybersecurity Commission, state UAC. So that goes up a little bit. I'm currently over on my actuals for this year. Right about $2,500, so I think that's realistic. Office budget doesn't change. Equipment maintenance, things break, I have to get stuff back. I haven't spent a whole lot of stuff this year. We'll spend $5. The IT utilities is literally the internet feed to the courthouse. Looking at adding circuits and doing some other things in the future, but just leaving that as is for now. Again, everything else is pretty standard. My fuel line. I'll change that down to $300, but it's not, it could stay at $5. It's just for a little IT golf that gets around town. All of the gas goes into travel. The big lines are professional services. Professional services, 310 triple lot, 61,000. That takes care of, not only like our Google Workspace, takes care of, email filtering. You got website hosting for county website, e-waste recycling, various professional project support as it comes up. Well, that's, so I try to anticipate where that's going. Backup, you'll see a noted drop in 2026 down to 2,500 bucks from 30,000. And that line, as well as the line after it, the 310, 300, which is a RMM ongoing for radio maintenance as well as for cybersecurity initiatives. And these are interrelated, but the reason for the decrease in the backup is that last year and then this year as well, I have money allocated to further upgrade and harden our storage and backup solutions. What this 2,500 is essentially the cost for off-premise co-located storage buckets. Now to that end, and like talk a little bit to Gabe with this. If it was requested of all departments to try to spend less this year. But really try to do that with these two particular items. I don't really try to put stuff in them, try to defer stuff. Until everybody's able to get a little bit better understanding of what revenues are and how comfortable everybody is with being able to spend. To that end, if I don't spend out of these this year, then I need to change these numbers for next year and keep them elevated, particularly for the backup item. And so it's kind of just a general nod question poll, is it okay if I buy these things this year?
I think if you have the money already existing in your budget and you're not planning on spending that on something else, then I don't see a problem with spending that on something you're gonna need next year to cut next year's budget. But
Well, I'm just saying, if I don't buy it this year, then I have to buy it next year. So. Just the general consensus that, again, like, it's been a little unsure of like, should we buy things, should we not? So lack thereof, I will say I'm just going to go with what we have here and buy it this year, just keep the budget as what it is here. The 310, 300, like I said, that's split out between radio maintenance. That's done through I would say that we have that's really devoted towards labor to update, maintain our towers, and radio systems for public safety. We're looking at expanding those services, a couple of different locations. We have not come close to pushing that 50,000 in spend. And the agreement that we have is not to exceed that. So in years past, we've kind of come back to them and said, well, can we push back a couple of projects if this or that. This year, we haven't spent a huge amount in there because of delays with access. Some of these tower sites are going through a couple different permitting issues and some other pieces, so there hasn't been a huge spend in that. I don't anticipate it this year at least going, but I do definitely request a purchase stay there next year. And then the cybersecurity initiatives. This initially became as a single item to purchase managed detection and response services.
Which line are we on?
That's the
Very bottom there.
41.
It's-
Three
Yeah,
on
on the screen.
Oh, okay, sorry, yeah, I was following on the paper there. There we go.
It's. And the MDR component, is, for our size organization, would run us pretty close to 50 grand by itself every year. I've been able to, as part of the cybersecurity commission and
Got it.
the way that we funded a couple of different pieces with state funding, we've been able to reach out and provide those services to all government entities within Utah. So it's been nice that the state's been picking up a cost for them as a, but again, the initiating funds for that was through the SLCGP. And that grant funding just got mixed with the budget use and otherwise at the federal level. So there's a number of different subscriptions and pieces that essentially might come back onto our plate if federal and state funding essentially fall through. So while I look at this item and I continue to keeping it there, and I will use it towards replacing end of life pieces, hardening systems, paid for, advanced subscriptions for logging analytics. It potentially could come back and be wholeheartedly used towards the trade security solution, which is important on all of our devices here. So to that end, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I don't have a question, but I think it was in one of the prior meetings, and I think it was Commissioner Martinez that mentioned that maybe IT was the place to be going through and the county bringing software plans all together, as in Canva and all of these different one-ups that everybody's using, rather than a broad single program that was negotiated. And as I guess what I'm trying to say is every department now just goes and buys whatever software they need rather.
Yeah, like we have 10 subscriptions to Canva. We have, I think, 12 subscriptions to Adobe. And so with that, I'm just wondering if it would be better if we got a suite version for the county.
So. Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm not trying to cut you off. So within what IT does here, absolutely, all software procurement, all technology, it should be going through me in my office.
It's not.
I'd be really curious to have this conversation. I'm not gonna do it in an open meeting with
Yeah,
you.
sure.
But, I mean, you call out very specifically 12 Adobe licenses. We definitely do have an Adobe Enterprise Suite. I get negotiated terms, pricing and everything. That's why everybody's supposed to go through me. So that we don't get into something where people are a la carte just going out and buying stuff.
So I think at least
No,
that's been my perception as I've been going through these budgets, as I've seen Canva, and I see Adobe listed on everyone. So I think that everyone's buying, these individual little licenses.
I
And it's just-
would beg to differ. Again, I don't know the specifics of which one you're talking about.
Yeah,
But like I said, I
yeah,
really
no,
make it a point that all of this stuff does go through me.
I'd love to work with you on it and just make sure that maybe it's
and-
my misunderstanding on the budgets.
And not only that it goes through me, is that I definitely get pricing back to everybody.
Yeah.
For making sure that the appropriate license is available to them, get it.
Okay,
Adobe is going through a very interesting change right now, though, where they're stopping perpetual licensing. I like perpetual licensing. I've used it for years and years.
of course.
And they're moving to a wholehearted subscription model.
Yeah.
And so there's a real interesting play when we start talking about tackling that very specifically within the Adobe suite.
Mhm.
That it's going to become a very real interesting cost quickly for a lot of people, because a lot of people use Acrobat. And I've had lots and lots of licenses for it. You get perpetual licensing, cloud licensing, actually has a credit card that buys Canva. I'm not totally concerned about hands off of, if you need Canva, you need Canva for a little while. But Creative Cloud, I mean, that license is $1,000 by itself.
And maybe what I'm seeing is
AutoCAD,
maybe
virtual-
they've gone to you and you've given them the quote and then they're putting it into their budget. And it's broken out that way.
Sure.
And so I mean,
And
I
that's-
guess it's my misunderstanding. I'm just wondering if it's an opportunity for us to go and look and maybe review all of our software that departments are using. And maybe seeing if there are some opportunities to cut costs there.
I appreciate your comment, and this is something that I do on the daily.
Yeah, okay,
Like,
perfect.
We run software audits and I keep track of
Okay.
who's running what and where. Because again, in my book, a lot of for compliance reasons. And the end user license agreement goes along with it. When I first started this job, I came into an organization that had a bunch of pirated software. And I'm confident saying at this point at a public meeting that I've worked very hard to get rid of all of that.
Mm.
And when I say pirated software, those are like education licenses for office.
Yeah.
Things like that. Those are not appropriate to be in our organization. Because it goes directly against their piece. They can actually come in. At any given moment, knock on the door and say. Show me what you have. And I can actually provide a listing and audit pretty quickly on the softwares that we have out there. And so it stops them from kind of those door knocks, and we're a small organization. Don't do that. But Microsoft can come in and actually go through and say, look, we found that you have so many different pieces of software running in a production environment. In here that are against our licensing, we're gonna slap you right now with a fee of X.
Yeah.
And on top of it, you need to uninstall all these things and prove it. And buy new licensing on. And so like it can cause a huge production chain halt. I'm really all about business continuity and stopping any of that kind of stuff from happening. And so for anybody who's listening, and this is part of what I'm going on, is that if you are listening and you're a county employee and you're running something that you're not supposed to be, I will find it. Figure out this conversation.
I wonder if just the place to bring it up would be in the leadership meeting, just so that every department director knows that. You know, all of these software, that's the place to start addressing it.
And I'd like to think that where you're seeing it here, the advisory is exactly that, so I've gone. So
Giving
this
them a
is
quote.
what the renewal is.
Yep.
And it is your actual cost of budget for it.
Mhm.
And that's across the board with IT, right? Because I'm going out to all the department heads, all the offices and saying, this is what you have, this is what you need. And by the way, don't forget about the support that goes along with it too. Right, because we could buy something. But if you're not prepared every year to pay the $3,000 in support that goes along to be able to get the updates and the support that you need on it. You know, those pieces are valid as well too. And I'm absolutely going out to everybody with all of those, so I hope that's what you're seeing. And that we're not down some sort of a picking it, saying somebody's doing something wrong here, because I really don't think that's the case.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Matt.
I mean, I've. You know, there's always improvements that can be made to this process, but I did include in these budget worksheet templates. Software utilized by department, so I think. We can work together and you know, create some more concrete expectations about like. You know, we really need. We really need compliance by all of our department heads and populating these fields. You know, in their entirety, just so these documents can really exist as comprehensive, you know, pieces of information that we can really use, because, yeah, it's hard to get that buy-in.
Yeah,
Hmm.
and I really appreciate you bringing that up. Thank you. I was gonna say that is in your piece, as you see there, software use is a field that's there. I remember talking to Stephen about this last year, like, hey, this is a great time during budget time of. What are you guys actually using? And what I'm trying to get out of that field there with the software used is encapsulating some of these, you know, potential pieces of where people have gone out and they're paying for X, Y, or Z, and or the county is straight up paid for it, right? But it's a SaaS solution, it's a cloud-based type of a product, right? I'm not necessarily gonna see that as a software endpoint that's installed on my unit, we're just logging into it.
Yeah.
And those costs, in my opinion, are getting out of hand. We're paying for all sorts of different things that are all, again, subscription based. It's just like looking at your Netflix use, right? Like all of a sudden I'm paying for 5 different things.
Just on a separate, would that be something that we could possibly use for an internal audit? As in cloud-based software that's being used? I mean, just, it might be something that we clue our internal auditor on into the organization and look at it. If you do think that that's a big cost that the county could cut.
It's something that needs to be monitored, absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, where that ever comes from. You know, I can only get so far.
Of course,
Particularly when it comes to one-offs like Canva, these kind of things, and
yeah,
you know, again, I don't really have an issue like a Canva subscription because it's pretty de minimis at the end of the day.
yeah,
But if somebody's going out and they're paying for some sort of advanced you know, analytical engine that they're logging into, that they're running something that's costing, you know, $500 a month. And they're just absorbing that into their credit card fee and nobody's the wiser, you know, like it's, those are the costs that's kind of hard to track.
Isn't there a precedent with like the GIS committee? Don't you guys have one of those for everybody who uses your GIS services to some extent?
To some extent, GIS is, it's a beast. And depending on how you're consuming the data at the endpoint, you're absolutely gonna have like a credentialed login to be able to access it. But by and large, the GIS services that we push here, you know, it's not a cheap license for the server every year. The server itself is end of life, and I'm going to be rolling that into some of the new stuff that I'm gonna be purchasing here. But yeah, it's a hard one to encapsulate too, because it's more that we're actually publishing, pushing data. And, you know, people will come back and ingest that, some of it is included in state. You know, some of our other cloud softwares too, but a lot of that data upward is quarterly. So, does that answer your question?
Yeah, I'm wondering if like an overarching software committee, not that I'd be the one to propose a committee, but to inventory everything you guys have. I mean, right now IT is kind of a cost center for most organizations, but where could you help out with business needs, save costs, produce revenue in some cases? Could be a valid question.
Could be. But make do with what we got right now.
Yeah, understood.
But yeah, no, it's a continual effort. So it's something that I go after on daily, but try to find savings and otherwise. But, you know, I like the idea of actually having a, you know, some sort of committee that can come through and weigh and have some sort of policy to use. I mean, you bring up the GIS, I think maybe what you're getting at with it is like policy committee with the GIS. So with the GIS policy committee, is there to readily be able to actually come to this body or the commission, to be able to say, look, we need to actually allocate funds for this project or this need or whatever it might be. So it's, you know, having steering committees or otherwise, you know, give insight onto operational pieces, I think is probably valuable to the commission. It's certainly valuable to the, I think, overall, like making sure we're not having duplicate services and all that too, but yeah, I think it's a good idea. Does anybody else have any questions?
Cell phone stipend, is that zero for 2026? Cell phone allowance?
I probably left it at 0. Because I require my staff to carry a cell phone that has data on it. And so they'll get whatever they get, but our policy is rather dated.
It's like $40 for anybody that has to have data.
45, it's 40. It's 40. It's 45 for line staff.
Matt, I just added 2040, which is the 25 budgeted amount into that line, just so you're aware.
Thanks, yeah, works for me. Yeah. You guys know where the cell phone discussion might go though. I'm just fine keeping it budgeted. Favorite topic. For those that have heard me a lot about it, it's weird.
Any other questions or comments regarding the IT budget? Thanks, Matt.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it, Keith.
We'll stick around for capital stuff here too.
Okay, yep.
Okay,
Okay, we now welcome Sean Fugit. He's the facilities and maintenance supervisor for the county here. As described in the narrative, that the maintenance department maintains 15 county facilities and 13 miles of paved pavement of the town that are listed here in that narrative. Sean, we'll let you go ahead here with just giving us some highlights of your 2026 proposed budget.
Okay, I'm not as prepared as I'd like to be. The last 3 days I've been kind of hectic with the HVAC replacement. So, I pretty much just copy and paste from last year. I tried to cut where I could to make up for the 5% cut that's expected of us. I don't think I achieved anywhere near that, so. And I do like to make a statement that the budget I've been working off, a copy and paste from last year is actually a budget that we've been working off for 3 years. And everything is gone up 25% since then. So just be aware that that's where I'm working with. When I buy parts that are used to be $1, they're now $5. I really don't know where. Is there any specific questions you guys have? I maintained my building and grounds, as per that meeting yesterday, maintained it as 69.
So you're saying that. You copy and pasted your budget, but you said that,
Tried to do that.
well, no, you're fine. And I get that. And you said everything's gone up.
Yeah.
And then you're copy and pasted last year's budget, but then you made cuts. So are you gonna end up going over on a lot of your line items because of that?
I'll try not to.
I mean, I appreciate the cut. I think all departments are trying to do what they can, but at the same time, still run it apart.
Sure.
To be realistic with costs. And so,
I think we've also added at least one structure this year to your department, the CJC building. I
And
don't know what else, but
we gained the plan and zoning building 2 years ago. So,
yeah, I think it's maintenance departments probably one of the most important departments in the county, which maintain all buildings, so we don't have added expenditure.
Yeah.
So I mean, you should, my opinion, you should budget accordingly for extra costs.
sure.
Yeah, and as well, there's another thing I've been looking at too with these budgets is, I'll look at the 24 to 25 as well. So, your 24 to 25 is 102%, right? So you were pretty much flat from 24 to 25. And I'll look at other budgets, right? And they might be, 150 or 200% above in 24 to 25. So they've already absorbed those costs. You were running lean prior and then continue to run lean.
Yeah.
I think that's a little bit different story than somebody who took a big bump up, previously, and then is now taking, I'm taking 5% off, but the year previous, you were 250% up.
Right.
Yeah, it seems like, upon review, it's, how you described it, Sean, in terms of it's a static budget, and it looks like you made some, I'm sure, difficult cuts to inventory and schooling, in order to, take one for the team, so thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
I know it's not much, but try.
well, I'll mimic his comments too, is I think it's important that we have a realistic budget here. For the maintenance and upkeep of everything that you are doing, I do know that we can go in and amend it if we need to mid-year. If it isn't working, but I would rather see a realistic need now. Even if it's over budget, if it's necessary, I don't know that the pressure should be put on to have to cut an X amount out of a budget if that's not possible to do so. The addition of 2 buildings and whatnot to your list of duties here is not going to allow your budget to go down very much.
And we did, Chantel and I met with Sean, and we did try to do that on a couple lines, but perhaps it could even be looked at closer. But like, there were lines like, this 69,000 line, where, Sean just in trying to just, comply, had reduced it down, but it was, oh yeah, you can see that in the narrative, even though we moved it back up, and it's like, we have to budget to actual costs, even if we want to show a cut, or like if the grease trap clean out, cost goes up, for example. Based on what we're seeing in actuals this year, we need a budget for what it's actually gonna cost for that thing that we have, we don't have a choice but to do. So, but yeah, these are all good points.
And your utility line, is that for, must be for multiple buildings,
Yeah, I think
correct?
It's for this property pretty much. I think it can, I think, don't quote me on that. I think it includes the courthouse, jail, possibly travel council, possibly my shop.
And I guess my reason I bring it up is that the appropriate way to do this rather than, I mean, basically Sean is covering the utilities from the judges all the way down to every department in this building, when maybe they should be showing a utility line somewhat. I don't know, I'm just throwing it out
I
there.
would say that everybody has a utility line and it would be easier if they have one building that has one utility line instead of all of us trying to parse out what paying utilities for the same building.
Yeah,
Makes more sense, whether it's in maintenance, I don't see why it would be in maintenance to the utilities, but it sounds like a general bill to me. So I don't know what department you would pull that out of. But yeah, everybody has utility. It's just like, well, dispatch, and we have utilities for the 911s, we have phone lines, we have. Jail has a utility line, it's just, so. I think it would clean up things if we just figured out what all the utilities were for the county properties and put them in one line, and realize the budget for. Give you a better idea, because you're just looking at random 60,000 here, 90,000 here, 40,000 here, instead of just one.
yeah, countywide line.
Yeah, I think we have that non-department category, and I think most, maybe at least half budgets of the budgets we've even reviewed up to now. There are lines that really don't apply to that department's activity, but are appropriately part of the category. But when we're looking at the operations of that department, it doesn't really sort of illustrate what the cost of the operations are of that department. And so we could, yeah, it's kind of like, it becomes this tricky thing because we have all this historical data now going back. That includes these given expenses for maintenance, for example. And so if we want to do year over year comparisons, 25 to 24, 24 to 23, and so on. It's useful to have that line remain in this department budget, because if we, because I do agree with the kind of pulling it out so we can have a more accurate picture, but then we have to always adjust for that historical context when we're making year over year comparisons. So it kind of goes both ways. But I certainly could start to pull those things out and propose it, and we kind of move forward on it, turning over.
Even if it's in his budget, I mean, to me, it doesn't matter where it is, the county has to pay it, it's.
Right.
But would it make sense for historical value, to have it by address? Because we don't know if one of the buildings is dramatically changing one way or the other or not. We just know there's a lump sum of everything thrown in together here, and I don't know, it's just a suggestion. We have no way of historically knowing how the travel building is doing.
What buildings use what amount of power and energy.
I think
You do.
I don't. I
Oh,
was trying to get what you're trying to say here.
Yeah, and so if they're, all of a sudden, we see that one of them is the water, I mean, that's how the Moab City does it. If all of a sudden Bill Winfield's water bill is astronomically high, then they come knocking on your door and say you've got a leak somewhere underground, and they do that by historical data. And we can't see anything historical the way we're doing it, I guess is my point, but.
I think it would be pretty reasonable for my accounts payable clerk who pays that bill to just keep a spreadsheet that they update every time they pay the bill. That just has a break.
I'm not trying to add work.
I don't, I think I think that's a pretty, I don't know. It wouldn't be that hard to just copy and paste some data into a spreadsheet every time the bill gets paid. I'll approach that subject because I think it's a good idea.
And then I have a question in regards to utilities. So the CJC building, it's covered under their own, right? Or is that now?
No, I think that's part of the attorney's stuff.
So they have their own utilities under the attorneys?
The outbuildings, most of the outbuildings have their own utilities.
And then why did we go down to 90,000? Last year you spent 97.
I didn't
I didn't catch that.
I didn't
So
catch it.
2024 actuals are 97.
Okay, I didn't, yeah,
We
I
budgeted
think,
90,000.
and then went, oh, I see.
So my guess is because 23 doesn't show your actuals, but it says I guess, I don't know, class is 86, I'm assuming. So it's like you guys budgeted, raised it to 90 in 24, but then we spent 97. And then we went back down to 90, and I don't know what you're projected to spend. I don't know if you broke it down, but I'm just, again, if we need to raise it instead of just going over every year. So.
I don't have anything further.
Maybe match last year's. I have tried to make improvements to the building to save energy, like, you know, switching out to LEDs and HVAC replacements. Should be more energy efficient per se, but
You're fine, I wasn't asking.
no, yeah, I get you.
All right, I raised that to
The
95,000.
joke that's here, so.
Cause this kind of spikes in the last couple months of the year for this year, right? Because of heating.
Yeah, the gas.
Okay, any other questions regarding Sean's department budget?
I do want to make a quick statement. Over the past few years, other maintenance oriented departments have done away with their general maintenance job description and increased it to a tech job description. And my department has maintained the general maintenance job description, which is a whole grade lower. And I feel that my guys do just as much, if not more, than other departments that have increased their maintenance employees to a tech. So I have 4 guys that the next couple of years, I intend to do as everyone else has done, is get rid of the general maintenance job description. So
Would that go into the employee reclassification? I mean, I would say we should put it in this year. I mean, it can always be voted down,
Sure.
but at least it should be considered.
yeah, maybe I'll do that for sure.
And when you say other departments, I know you're trying to be polite, but is it like roads, they've gone to tech? over maintenance, or what, are we talking about other counties? Just
No,
just-
not necessarily. So-
And Flats have somebody. and-
Well, let's see, Costa, Grand Center. They've both gotten rid of their general maintenance, the job description,
Got it.
which is a whole grade lower than the tech.
Yeah.
So.
Just reclassify the position.
Yeah, and give everyone, it's an increase, you know.
Bill just put it in the list of the tag and they can consider it on the position for reclassification.
Okay, I will do that.
Great. Thanks for that.
Thank you. Good job.
All right, so that segues pretty naturally into a discussion about capital projects. Particularly as it relates to 2026. So we have a fund that is Fund 34, that is the Capital Projects General Fund is the title of it, and we typically have this convention of budgeting what is in the fund balance of that fund to allow us to make expenses that still have to go through a full-scale approval process. But within the budget, and so that's just a detail that I always want to speak aloud and clarify. So that currently, there's the current quoted fund balance in Fund 34 is 4.65 million. And we still have some costs, some bills on already approved projects coming due this year. Which relate to the HVAC, the courthouse HVAC that's currently being completed. The recorder's office digitization effort. As well as the automatic transfer switch. And so factoring in those the estimated combined cost of those 3 projects is $300K. And so that leaves us with a more accurate estimated fund balance that we would expect to have moving into 2026. as 4.35 million. And so that that's currently what's sitting in there. You know, certainly I think when we move forward into commission budget workshops, I think that the current sheet that I have displayed on the screen, we're gonna sort of add further refinement to this list, add tabs, that break out capital projects that might not actually refer to Fund 34, but to other capital project general funds or other restricted revenue funds. And also just some trends, we'll look forward to providing some trends to the commission regarding where the fund balance has been, where it's gone. Obviously, that's relevant to the conversation about where we're going. And so what's being displayed right now is a list. We sort of reached out to department heads to just compile information regarding anticipated capital expenditures that could be completed next year. And some of these could be potential more 3-year time horizons. I think that's additional refinement that can be added to these lists. But we're just starting from somewhere, getting a sense for what's on the docket. The purple section up here, this is a good example of if we're talking about Fund 34, Capital Projects General Fund. I think these costs may or may not. I think that the sidewalk and the Jackson Street storm drain, those come out of separate, either the storm drain fund, stormwater mitigation fund, or the roads capital project fund. And the Spanish Valley Drive multi-use path. I'm not exactly certain, what sources of funding we might use to plug in there. I know that there's some B roads funds, or there's some county optional sales tax funds that could potentially be plugged into that cost. So I don't know with certainty where this 1.1 million on the county side would come from. But otherwise, we have Sean here, and usually he's our authority that knows what's going on in the county facilities and what the pending sort of needs are in terms of maintaining health and safety for the public and for our employees in the facilities that we operate, and just establishing those baseline ones. So it looks like there's these HVAC replacements. I know Sean has described that these insurance funds, they're not going to be available forever. And these are on pretty concrete replacement schedules as far as their need, like they will be needed. And if we have this insurance money available to offset, it seems likely that we would want to, again, it's just my opinion, likely we would want to keep these HVAC replacements on our schedule and really try to improve them into the coming year. The Moab Information Center bathroom remodel, that I understand that there's a push to maybe is that to maybe happen immediately?
I'd like to just make a comment.
Please.
Yeah, I was under the impression that was supposed to happen in 2025. Right there.
Okay, yeah,
And just from what I've heard the conditions are extremely poor.
okay.
And I think that would be something I would like to see done sooner rather than later. And I'm sure Sean is from having to go out there and work on those would understand that.
They're not fun to work on. It becomes a thorn on my side for sure.
Yeah. And so I don't know if we have to wait till 2026 or if this is something that we could even tackle this year. One of the suggestions maybe for possible funding would be rec film and convention, if we do have that available, would be to go ahead and use that towards that facility right there so that we can get those bathrooms taken care of, I think, sooner rather than later.
Said it got a pre-25 schedule.
I wasn't positive, but that's what I was told that
It was a mid-year, I think, Quinn and Mark came to me and said, what would it take to remodel the bathrooms? And I got a quote and I presented the quote to him. And as far as I know, the money wasn't there or ready to be there. So
Okay.
I'm not that guy. So I just know that this is, they told me to kind of. I was- I
I'm
was
not
informed
sure,
to
because like I
become
said, I was
full-time.
new, and so I'm not sure how it came in from last year, but I do know this is one of those things that I think that it's something that we should look into, especially with the amount of visitors and people that use those restrooms in those facilities.
Is there a safety factor here at all? I mean, I know we had problems with the sidewalk down there, but I don't think, if there's a safety issue, I would think we'd wanna
It's-
push it up.
Mostly just the fixtures are old, the flushers are old, the hand washers, I mean, all that stuff is getting old and. You know, it's been retrofitted time and time again with my guys going down there, throwing in. A different flusher
Yeah.
or a closet, so. And sometimes they work and sometimes they don't work, so.
I'm not aware of a safety issue.
Okay, I just didn't know. I know we had the one incident down there.
In
so.
It was in an effort to provide the staff down there a private bathroom as well. So,
How's that part of it?
because that's part of that, yeah. Essentially turn their maid's closet into a private bathroom, so.
Just off the top of your head, do you know what percentage of that 220
20,
is the remodel for the separate bathroom?
it's all of it.
It's all,
Well, yeah, because we'd have to move some walls essentially. I don't know how we'd break that down. Because there could be some, having to do some demo in there, so,
so it's the majority of that 220 is
Yeah.
for the
for the
the
bathroom.
private bathroom, not for the remodel of the visitor's bathroom.
I'd say, I would break down to 50%,
50,
right down the middle.
got it.
Because, I mean, as soon as you start buying porcelain toilets and stuff, that price goes up. You know, there's like 6 toilets down there.
Yeah.
So, and I raised it to 220, the quote we had was 200. I raised it to 220 just to make up for any type of increase next year. It's just to plan it and do what we need to do to get it going next year, so. That's where the 20,000 came from.
And then just on this, and sorry for taking up so much time on it, but since you're here.
Yeah.
Is there an advantage to having, basically, there's 2 projects that we're looking at. One is the visitor's bathroom, and the other is a private bathroom.
It's all,
It's all the same.
it's within the bathroom section of.
Okay.
Yeah,
Understand it now.
Yeah.
Perfect. That's it. Thanks.
Commissioner, if you wanted that separated out, what we could do is request quotes for the entire project and then for just the public accessible portion.
Got it.
I don't know if you, I know, I always come up with these great ideas, but there's always money involved. You know, if we're gonna. And I've always thought that another story on that section of that building would be beneficial to somebody.
Mhm.
I don't know who, but it would be beneficial to somebody if we went up a story and out. Maybe cold feet on all 3 sides. I don't know, something to consider before we start throwing money at it. Just something to consider, you know,
Thank you.
And so, and to further clarify, and Sean, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but there's facilities maintenance project 1 that's shaded a little darker and.
Yeah.
And those are considered higher urgency or what we would
Yeah,
just sort of strongly consider
what I
to be.
intend to do next year for sure.
Got it. And then two might be, you know, it might be things that could be done, or it might also be things that are maybe a little more long-term horizon.
Yeah, I tried to put some dates on some things, and then just kind of suggestions on other things. But they're just kind of something to consider, something to keep an eye on. We'll go, just realize that this is what we have going on. This is just my ever-growing list.
Yeah, and it should be noted that library roof replacement, library floor replacement, the library does have its own capital project fund. That it's been putting into. So that would apply to our capital projects general fund 34 unless the commission desired it to be so. Yeah, and I think, yeah, adding information regarding airport and roads, I think to this general master list, whether it's in a tab or, you know, that just we can provide further breakdown, but I think this is a decent start. And as far as you know, I think, yeah, we'll come back with a commission workshop and the commission can, sort of make determinations on items that, would be included, in 2026. Now that we've talked a little bit, Angie talked a little bit about the fire suppression system out at OSTA.
I would like to make some comments about that. We've been trying to do that for the last 3 years. And it's kind of just been kind of pushed to the wayside, but it needs to be done. I hate to spend that much money, but for safety purposes, it should be done, so.
Are there any suggestions or comments, on how we can, you know, best proceed with this process going into the commission workshops or anything, you know, any further information?
Got one comment on,
Please.
on my $1 million ask there.
Uh-huh. Oh, we're talking about this one here.
Can you change the title of that to be security and controls? Anyway. What that line item is, yes, it's $1 million. I take that $1 million based off of different quotes and recent installation in Ox Elder County, very similar. But it goes through and it puts in security controls, so that's not just cameras, but that's all your access control. So it's key carded access with the actual cameras. It's a real system that actually works like the modern day system's supposed to, not just us running around with keys. And it would take care of all the buildings that we have here. So it's not just the courthouse, it includes OSTA, it includes the airport, it includes the roads department, includes all of these different offsite buildings. All of it plays in. The reason I continually ask and I continually have this on here, and we should show them throwing it on there. I would really rather see this done in one swoop. It will actually probably save money to get it all done at once. Versus doing like kind of a piecemeal thing, one at a time. That we would have one complete system that is probably appreciated, actually work against it for at least 10 years. You know, the risks associated with not having a system in place. I mean, just having cameras is a very reactive type of situation when something happens. But being able to actually control and see who's what and where and what they're trying to do. It all falls into cybersecurity and all these pieces that I have to report and get audited on as well. And so within the county area, in those audits, we fail each one of those. We pass the first 2 questions of, do we have a program in place on how to be able to maintain? Yes. Sean has a list of keys that we issue out to people. How do we audit that list? They gave them or they gave back.
Right.
How do we audit access? I can't do that. Right? I can't do any of those pieces. So if I can't do anything from that, the next 40 some odd questions we just fail. And so it's a big section of red on audit, which comes out as alarming. Right? One of the pieces that I can take is I can say there's a risk that's formally accepted to that. So it gives it a yellow, but I need the commission at some point to say, we're okay with the status quo. That, you know, it's not necessarily for me or Sean to try to push it. All I can continue to do is keep bringing it up. This is a demonstrated ask as well from multiple different departments, and what I have to come back to them with is that if the commission's unwilling to fund this, then they're going to continue to come back to you with, hey, I have a project I need to take care of for my facility. And that's gonna be a piecemeal piece. We can do it in phases, it'll get there, but it's something that the commissioner really thinks she'll take seriously at some point. But that's my real diatribe, but why put $1 million something else? Okay, probably. Might go plus.
It's a lot of work, to buildings. With, I mean, just seeing what we had to do with the EOC, the old doors, yeah.
Sean, I don't remember ever seeing this item, UHP new storefront, and I don't want to give us too off topic, but can you explain that really briefly? And I don't know if Shan might know, or if we know if UHP has plans
well-
imminently to vacate or what, but anyway, go on with the.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
As far as I know, I'm sure they eventually intend to move, at least I've heard they intend to move over to the old liquor store. For sure, after it's remodeled for their purpose. Which could potentially open up office space for county people, places. But the storefront it's an old metal storefront. That used to actually be in front of the clerk's house, the same design that used to be in front of the clerk's office. But it's outside, and the metal is rusting, and the doors, the door closer is always having to be adjusted. And it's always letting water in. So
Sounds like it's rightfully on the list, thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so it's just something on the list to consider to do. So.
Okay.
Another one I'd like for you guys, just kind of a plug for some ideas or anything. Our Veterans Memorial is slowly rotting. And I'd really like to get a redesign on that thing, on that memorial. But I think that we could do some type of grant or donations. Guy Johnson, when he came to look at it, to look at the stucco, he suggested I do donations. He said that a lot of the guys in town, a lot of the construction guys would be willing to donate time. And as long as we bought material, so.
Dave, I got a question for you.
sure, yeah.
So how much did we put into the capital fund project in 23, 24, and what's projected for 25?
What's projected to be to be put into.
Yeah,
to be
to put
in-
back into our capital fund.
We don't expect to be putting into it, this year. We did not put into it last year. But I'm quite certain that 2023 was the last year that we did put into it. But I think that speaks to a little bit, providing a little bit more of an overview of the last, say, 5 to 10 years of where that fund has gone.
So maybe a recommendation that we could make a note of is I think that we should have a plan as the commission of an amount or at least a process for replenishing those funds. I mean, I think that just using the, like, hey, this is our budget, this is kind of what we came in, hey, we did good this year. Let's throw another 50,000 back into the capital funds project. I don't think that's a good way to run an organization. I think that we should have either a process or a plan to where we're thinking ahead of some of these projects and seeing this list right here is going, hey, next year we're gonna have to budget $1 million that we're planning on putting into capital projects.
And maybe when this does go to the commission, if we had that historical data, that would help, that you just mentioned.
I do think it's a conversation that we should have, so if you could add that to the notes. I'm sorry, I didn't really phrase it too well, it's kind of all over the
No,
place,
that
but
makes sense to me.
yeah, thanks.
I think ultimately, fund balance build up in the general fund and in the capital projects general fund, that we're currently sitting on, we can give a lot of thanks to COVID era infusions of cash.
Yeah.
And that's the plain truth of it, so.
Yeah, and that's not happening, so we
Right.
should be planning for the future.
We should.
All right, well, that was the last topic on the agenda. Thank you all for your time. Unless there's any more questions or comments, I would adjourn this meeting. All right, 10:35 a.m. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir. Amen.